Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey watching 90 Day Fiancé. Let's get to the show.
Okay, guys, don't forget, we only have a few minutes, so, let's hurry up. Okay, not to rush you, but let's hurry it up. All right, just knock on that door when you're ready.
My mom's a block. Something I've dealt with my whole life. Isn't this how it is for everybody?
All right. I always love it when we get a little bit of history. So he just said that his mom is a blank blocker and that she's been that way his entire life. And he's wondering, isn't everyone's mother like that? I don't know if he's being sarcastic. So what would that mean exactly? That she interferes, that she's overprotective, that she inadvertently interferes? Who knows? But I would really love to sit down with the mom and ask her what she's worried about. What's her goal? What's her hope for her son? And what is her approach? I'm guessing what she would say, total speculation, is that she loves her son. She wants what's best for him. She's worried about him. And I'd say, okay, well, those are pretty universal things. How do you deal with those feelings? Well, she would probably say, well, I think I should, a bad mother would just look the other way. And a good mother is someone who pays attention and who tries to do things, who tries to fix problems in their son's lives. I really love him and I really want what's best for him. Also, I'm guessing she would say, he has made a lot of mistakes in his life. I mean, let me count the ways of his mistakes and how important it is that I keep a laser focus on him, because if I don't, he's going to make those same mistakes in the past. And when I did look the other way and let him make his own choices, he made huge mistakes. So there's reasons why I'm involved. I'm guessing she would say something along those lines. I've heard that from other parents in that situation before. And as I always say, we want to zoom out and look at how the system is interacting, because if she continues with that way of coping with that feeling, she might actually create the problem by not allowing him to make his own mistakes and learn from his own mistakes. She might actually keep him in a position of incompetence such that she needs to step in. And it just creates a vicious cycle, and he's 45 years old and still incompetent and still needing someone to step in and save him. Now, a lot of times what will happen is people in his position will actually transfer from mom to someone else because it'll look weird. And sometimes the moms will even just give up. Just, I don't want to have to pick up the pieces anymore. And people in his position will transfer maybe to their wife or to their spouse or to someone else in the family. So that's why systems thinkers, family people, we tend to look at the broader system. We don't look at, the mom is a problem, we have to take that away. Because oftentimes if we do manage to get the mom to differentiate a little bit, the system will figure out, well, he still needs someone in that role, and so the dad will step in or Julia will step in. And but anyway, let's continue watching. The key to watch for is, what are the needs of the individual? And how are they as a system, as a family system, making it optimal such that everyone can get their needs met? And what are those needs? Let's continue watching.
I don't know.
I'm not go. I know you go. You take dinner.
So these two, I believe, have a need to be with each other without any other distractions. They're in love. They seem to be very, very much in love, at least that initial new relationship energy feeling. And they just saw each other. They just got alone. They're back in the hotel room. I'm guessing they just want to stare into each other's eyes and talk about how much they like each other. That's just a guess. And touch each other and make out and make their way around the bases, if you will. Who knows? Hopefully they do that in a responsible way. We saw in the last episode that they seemingly don't have a responsible way of dealing with. Anyway, point is, their needs are to stay together and to spend time with each other. So how does the system react? Now the mom seemingly has a need for, because of her anxiety, she has a need to be involved. So how does the system manage that? Are they flexible? Are they able to communicate to each other about their needs? Are they able to be flexible and say, okay, I think that Brandon's need and Julia's need in this moment kind of it's such a big need that me as a mom, I think I need to let that one go. And my anxiety about their relationship shouldn't override that. Now, the other thing is that I want to remind everyone is that the son, Brandon, if you remember from the last episode, seemingly had no idea about family planning. Seemingly, you might see my cat's, do you see my cat's paw? Sometimes she reaches out to me and then she gets stuck. She has one sharp claw. I try to, clip her nails to make it not so sharp because they get stuck on everything. But she doesn't like it when I have to wait till she falls asleep and she's like completely drowsy, and then I grab a paw really fast and I try to figure out which nail is the sharp one, and I try to get it because like a half second later she's like, she won't let me. She's a very stubborn cat when it comes to that kind of thing. But anyway, she's sitting right here and she just kind of did a stretch and then she got caught on my thing. But she's disconnected now. She's just hanging out. Anyway, point is that I want to remind everyone that in the last episode, he talked about how he revealed his general approach to family planning, which was extremely childish and irresponsible. And thus, the mom has rational reasons to intervene and be a blank blocker to this relationship. I don't think the mom should do that. I think, she should maybe sit down with the son and say, look, son, it's your life. You're 27 years old, but I got to tell you something. Our conversation the other day wrote, major red flags. You said this, you said that, you said, again, it's your life, son. You're a grown man. But what I heard terrifies me. I'm pretty sure what you're talking about is withdrawal method, which it doesn't work. A lot of you informed me in the comments, by the way. I was like, what is he talking about? A lot of you are in the comments. I think he's talking about, the withdrawal method. Anyway, she could say something like, just be like, look, I'm very concerned about you and your approach to this. And I just want to tell you that I'm not quite sure if you understand the consequences of what your approach is to this. She could get pregnant tomorrow, and then what? And it's up to you guys to figure out what you want to do with that. But I just have to say, if you have a child and she goes back, things don't work out or whatever, I just want to say, that's going to affect me. That's going to be my grandchild. And I just want you to know that I'm worried, but it's your life. So as a mother, she could say something like that. That would be totally fine, right? But I don't think she's going to do that. I think she's going to, try to weasel her way in. And what that will do as a system is it will force him and her, Julia and Brandon, to try to get away, and they won't have time to think about, the space to think as an adult because they're being treated like a child. That's another point to bring up is when you treat people like children, they act like children. When you treat them like adults, they act like adults. So they will likely be forced into a position where they have to act like they're teenagers. And when you act like teenagers, you think like a teenager. And when you think like a teenager, you don't think like a responsible adult. And so that's why we as family therapists try to treat this system. We're trying to, look, everyone's playing their part here. Everyone's playing their part in the dance. And so let's all think about that and try to shift. Let's all shift at the same time. Brandon needs to grow up and make his own mistakes. He wants the freedom to make his own mistakes, but he also has to realize that his parents can't save him from everything. Julia wants to bond with him. The mom wants to see her son do, anyway, you get my point. Let's watch.
The last time we saw each other was about 4 months ago in France, and now she's here to stay, and I can't believe it. I'm so happy.
I guess we don't go dinner and we have time together, and I have a little surprise for you. Easy.
I know. It's much needed.
But I think your mother offended.
Oh well.
All right. So you see the shifting of the roles. That for Julia, she's like, I think your mom's going to be upset. And he says, oh, well. So he's sending a message through that communication. This is what we think about when we think about systems. Everyone is communicating about their place. So another way to think about this, and I've talked about this before, is that the mom and the dad and Brandon had a homeostasis. They had a system that operated under particular rules for a long period of time, maybe even since Brandon was born 27 years ago. And now you have a fourth person that is entering into the system. And the system, by definition, has to change. Everyone has to change because this new person. And this person has to adjust to this. Everyone has to change. Julia has to change to adjust to the system, and the system has to change to adjust to how everyone is going to shift. They don't just have to adjust to Julia, but Julia is going to affect Brandon. It's going to affect mom. It's going to affect dad. And then the dad now has to react to the fact that the mom has changed, and Brandon has to react differently now that dad and mom, like everyone has to adjust. And so families that are flexible and healthy tend to manage this process in a healthy way. There's usually bumps in the road. And the way that they manage this is through communication, through subtle or not so subtle communication. And right there, he just had a very not so subtle communication to Julia, not to the parents. But to Julia, he was saying, oh, well, because I'm setting, the messages, I'm guessing that he's communicating, he's hoped to be communicating to Julia, and I'm guessing Julia is receiving is, I matter more than mom does. I take precedent. Our relationship is very important to you. And even though mom might have some issues, that doesn't matter because things are different now. And so he's now communicating that. So now as that communication runs its course, because now Julia, as the two of them sit down with mom and dad, Julia knows, oh, Brandon is prioritizing our relationship more than maybe the mom wants that to be true. I know that right now. Brandon knows that right now. Brandon knows that I know that right now. What do they know about? So we'll have to watch how those communication. Now I'm guessing the mom is going to try to communicate that she doesn't want things to look like that. Let's watch.
Finally.
Yay.
Hi.
All right. So right away, mom says, finally, which is a communication of, I don't like the fact that it took you so long. And I'm going to emotionally subtly punish you for breaking the rules from what I hope that our four-person system to look like. And so now let's see how everyone reacts to what she said. Because right now they're entering into a four-person communication complex right now. And she just did that. Let's see how they respond. Now, there's a chance they didn't show us that Brandon actually had a face communication to the mom that said something. Who knows? Let's watch.
Where have you been? No, I never mind. I don't know.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
So I don't know, but Brandon's face looked not happy. He's usually always smiling, and he wasn't smiling as he sat down. So maybe that's his way of saying, I didn't even want to come down here. So maybe that's what his face, he's hoping to communicate.
So when you get to the farm, you're going to see the farm, on Sunday.
I really want to go home. I really want
Are you going to come home? You're going to go home. Your new home.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll be right back.
Cheers.
Okay, yes.
Cheers to the
Happy new couple.
the complete family.
All right, there's nothing wrong with the mom saying, hey, we're a family, because they are. But is she subtly communicating something like that? Of like, look, it's not you two and us two, it's the four of us. I don't know. I just wonder how that's being received. Look at Brandon's face. What's going on? So the main tension here now is mom and son. That's where the tension is. And so when you have tension between two people, there's always a tendency for a third element to be triangulated into that to stabilize it. Because when there's tension between two people, it's hard and they can't really work it out in a differentiated way. there will be people, the two people will try to pull in a third, or a third will just involve themselves because they're worried about the two. So the dad and Julia will be triangulated in. Let's see how that plays out.
Welcome to the USA.
Welcome to America.
I'm worried Brandon has not told Julia the fact that they're going to have separate rooms yet.
Yes.
And I just feel like she needs to know.
I agree. I agree.
By the way, some of you emailed me about that point, saying that you can relate to that for some families, certain religions included, it is completely a mortal sin to allow non-married people to sleep in the same bed in your house. And it's a sin not only for the couple, but also for you to allow that to happen. And so for some, I don't know if the parents adhere to those beliefs, but it's not uncommon to have that belief system. So some people are emailing, giving that point. It doesn't necessarily justify it, but it does give context to it.
So while you're at the farm, you know that there's going to be some rules that we have to follow, just out of respect, and I'm not sure.
All right. So it's another move that the mom is communicating right now. She's establishing a rule of like, I'm the one in charge of the four of us. I'm the one who sets the tone. I'm the one who starts the conversation. I literally lay out the rules for the two of you as younger people in this family. So that's the message that she's saying. Now let's see how everyone reacts to because that's a subtle message. Now the mom is just saying, "Look, I'm just bringing up the expectations. That's an important thing." Yeah, that's fine. Why now? Why when she just arrived? So let's see if there's any communication around that. Now, if no one does anything to indicate, hey, things are kind of different right now, then everyone is playing their part in how the system operates. So if Brandon right now does not want the mom to have that role or does not want to move forward with that kind of a system, Brandon should do something. Brandon should say, "Mom, let's not talk about the rules right now." Or, yeah, Mom, you have rules, but, Julia isn't necessarily a farm person. And so we're going to have to work with her on this. Let's negotiate that as time goes on, Mom. This communicates, Mom, I'm also in charge because I'm a grown man. You are not completely in charge. Or at least I have some power in this. There's a back and forth here, Mom. Now, if Brandon does nothing, then what does that communicate? You're always communicating. That's another thing that family systems people say. You cannot not communicate, is what we say. Meaning that when you're not communicating, you're communicating that you're not communicating. You're communicating compliance, or you're okay with it, or you don't care, or you're communicating something. So let's see how Brandon communicates, because I'm pretty sure we know in his heart right now is like, ugh, I don't like how my mom is approaching this.
How your culture handles this, but we thought it'd be a really good idea to let you have your own room.
So the other thing the mom is communicating is, I'm not going to wait for Brandon to have the conversation. I'm just going to do it for him. Because, it's sort of like when you have a 5-year-old child and they have a steak for whatever silly reason. And you don't wait for the 5-year-old to try to cut the steak. You just reach across and cut the steak for the child, right? You're communicating a lot of things. You're saying, you're not old enough to cut your own steak. I care about you, and I'm not even going to ask because you're 5, and this is how the world works. I don't want to give you a steak knife. You're 5 years old. So that's what she's communicating right now. I'm just going to do this for you because you don't know what you're doing. Now, Brandon, he has a blank face, almost like he doesn't even want to be involved. Almost like he's like, okay, fine, Mom and Julia will have this conversation, and I'm just going to stay out of this. Now, as I've said before, it's possible that Brandon has been through tremendous emotional abuse, and that's why he's compliant, or at least subtle emotional abuse over time. So I'm not going to say that he doesn't have good reasons to be afraid and intimidated in a situation like this. I'm just saying that as the system is working right now, those are ways that you would characterize it.
Explain. You stay your room, I stay different room. What do you think about
I don't like it.
And?
And
Our house, kind of our rules.
Okay, so he's saying, I don't like it. I think he's also saying, but we have to deal with it. So, interesting. So, Brandon is kind of taking the middle road a little bit. Now, a more assertive role would be, Mom, I got this. Julia, my mom and dad are very traditional. And they do not want us sleeping in the same room. I don't like this. I think it's a silly rule, but it is their house. And until we have our own place, I don't think we have a choice. So let's work really hard so that we can get our own place. But until then, I'm terribly sorry. We're going to have to do what my parents say. That would be one approach. Instead, what he's doing is he's kind of on his heels. He's just like, well, I don't know. This is the rules, and I don't like it. And what that does is it pulls Julia in. Julia now is going to look at Brandon and be like, how come you're being so childish right now? How come you're being so passive? How come you're not speaking up and speaking your mind? You're 27 years old. You must be incompetent. You must be immature. You must be a powerless person. So to counteract that, I have to become powerful for the two of us. Someone has to, if you're not going to be assertive, I'm going to be over assertive. So that pulls Julia in to that dynamic. And then of course the mom and Julia will end up fighting, and I'm just predicting that's what's going to happen. But let's see what happens.
I don't really have a choice. I definitely feel somewhat blindsided. I was gonna tell Julia, after she had time to settle in, and my mom just comes out and drops it right on her.
You not say me before.
He wasn't being honest. Shame on you.
I don't know if this is the time for that, Dad, but yeah, I agree. I don't know if this is the time for that, but Brandon should have said something before she came. Now, I wonder if Brandon was just hoping that it would blow over and it would never happen. I wonder if he has that kind of denial system where he's just like, well, Julia's going to get upset, or, I'm going to upset somebody. I'm going to upset my mom, or I'm going to upset Julia. I'll just go into denial and it'll all work itself out. I don't know, but he should have said something before she came, for sure. Again, the way the mom dealing with it right now, and now the dad's pointing it out, I don't know if any of this is very fair to Brandon. It certainly doesn't feel that way. Ugh.
You do agree with what your mother is talking about, don't you? I mean, what?
Okay, so that's interesting. The dad is like, you do agree with what your mom's saying. Now, so there's a number of different communications that he's doing right there. One is like, this isn't me, this is your mom. This is your mom's, this isn't my rule. You do agree with what your mom is saying, right? Instead of, you do agree with what we're saying. That's a little subtle message right there. The other message is, you agreed to this. You did not push back on this. So for you to give us this face right now is surprising to us, because you haven't said that you weren't cool with this. So that's just another detail we have to add in here, that the parents look overbearing, but how underbearing has he been in this process? And if he were to stand up for himself, how much would they respond? We just don't know, but maybe we'll find out.
Yes,
No,
right?
I don't have a problem with
No.
you married. I don't have a problem.
Can we also have children in your
Speaking of children, you guys do not want children right away, right?
Yes, we not think about children now.
Okay.
You're
So
right.
you're going.
Eesh. So I like the fact that this is an explicit conversation. A lot of the couples on this show, a lot of people on this show, they have very implicit conversations. So I like the fact that She's communicating very directly. But you notice the tone. You guys aren't going to have children right away, right? Instead of, what are your plans for having kids? Because I have some emotions about that. That's a different approach, right? You can have your emotions about your son and his fiance's family planning. But to say, you guys aren't going to do that, right, is a message of, I'm in control. I'm in control of your life. And it's my role to direct you and tell you what to do. And then for them to try to please her, to say, and to go along with that style of communication. Another way to look at this is, parents out there, you've been through this, where your kid will go through a phase, not all kids, but a lot of kids will go through a phase where they'll start making commands of their parents. Get me a glass of juice. Or, I don't want to take a nap, and they'll scream and have a tantrum. And you in your mind, you understand what the kid is saying, and you could give your kid what they're asking for, but you understand you don't want to reward the way that they're asking for it. If they're whining or they're commanding or this sort of thing, you can be like, hey, I'll get you a glass of juice, but you have to ask nicely, and you have to ask please. Most, if not every parent goes through that phase. The same goes in any family configuration. So Brandon could say right now, Mom, I get that you're concerned about our family planning, but the way you phrase it right there, I don't like it. You're okay to bring it up that you're worried. You're okay to bring it up like you have a question. But the way you just phrased it right there of, the two of you aren't going to have kids right away, right? That seems like a command. That seems like you think you're in control of our life, and I'm not going to stand for that. So you're okay to have your feelings. You're okay to ask questions, but don't act like you're in control. Okay. Because if you go along with what the mom just did, you're keeping things the same, and you're rewarding behavior that you don't want to perpetuate. So that's what I would say to everyone, particularly Brandon, in this situation. Because the hope is, for everyone really, is that Brandon will grow up and that he will become responsible and his own person. So that would involve experimentation with assertiveness, particularly with his mom.
You're going to take proper steps to make sure that there are no children yet?
We don't plan children now. We plan maybe after 2 years, 3 years.
So right away, we're seeing Brandon saying nothing, and Julia, now who knows, they're editing it, but Julia is the one meeting the mother. So Brandon is either going into denial, he's disappearing, he's avoiding, he's terrified. What he is communicating right now is, I am not the one who addresses these things. And I am the quiet, invisible one. Or I don't have opinions. I'm just here for the ride, or something like this. And Julia is now saying, I will answer those questions, and I will answer them straight on. So that's what Julia is communicating.
Doctor says not good for all girl.
Drink medicine?
Yes.
It's
That sounds like something out of the dark ages.
No. When she says drink medicine, she means like take medicine.
Like a pill.
No. Things aren't like that anymore, though. If there's an accident and...
No, in 26 years, I never have accident about children.
Right. So, yeah. Right. And I feel like I even need to be reminded that because of the way they're being talked to. She's a woman. She's 26. If she's survived this long without having kids, she knows what she's doing. Now, we don't know if they know what they're doing, but that is something I'm guessing she said that because, wait, you're acting like I'm 13. I'm 26. I know what I'm doing. I don't think you realize I've lived a life. I've been sexual for a long time now, and I haven't gotten pregnant, so I'm doing something right. We don't know if that's a smart thing that she's doing, because it sounds like they're using withdrawal method. I don't know. But at the very least, we see here, we don't know, here's my point. We don't know the details of Brandon and Julia's family planning or birth control, or we don't understand that. They haven't revealed it, so we can't really evaluate it. And I don't know if I care to. It's up to them. It's their life. They're a couple, and they're free to take risks or not and live with the consequences. We would hope that they would plan accordingly, but they seem to be very in love, and so it wouldn't be unusual for people to get pregnant a little early and make it work, Anyway. But what we can comment on is how this foursome as a system is working out the language and the new homeostasis of the family. And Julia is saying, you're treating me like you're treating Brandon as if I'm a child, and I'm not a child. I'm 26 years old. So we're seeing that competence language being pushed back on the mom. And let's see how the mom reacts to that.
I live with ex-boyfriend and...
It's not 26 years, it's only a few years, and things happen.
So the mom is now communicating back, no, you are a child. That's the message I'm receiving. And I can evaluate, and you are stupid is kind of the message. You are dumb, and you are a child. So if you get told that enough times, which I'm guessing Brandon has, you start thinking of yourself as a stupid child, and then you start acting like a stupid child.
When you don't plan them.
If we want children, we have children. Now we don't want.
Let's try and make sure you find a way to prevent that.
I feel not comfortable. I not talk with my parents about this. Why?
So I want to remind everyone that the mother at least has a slight rational reason for this because of the way Brandon talked about it. In the last episode, the way Brandon talked about his family planning was so anxiety-provoking to the parents. And to me, frankly, when I heard the way he talked about it, I was like, what? It just sounded so childish and so irresponsible and such a uneducated way of approaching family planning. Now, maybe the two of them have very rational, intelligent ways of doing it. Maybe it's engineered, maybe from her, which I'm beginning to think. I'm beginning to think like she's got the family planning covered and Brandon doesn't know what's happening. But at any rate, Brandon communicated to the mom about some very concerning things that gives the mom a reason for leaning in. Now, of course, what the mom should do is say, well, that's what Brandon told me. Julia, hey, this is your life, but you'd make me feel a lot less scared if you could tell me a little bit about your family planning efforts right now. I'm guessing Julia would say, okay, well, if you really want to know, and then I'm guessing that we would be confident in their approach. I don't know, but I'm guessing. But let's continue watching.
I need to talk with him, parents. I don't want to go doctor. I don't want to take medicine. And this is crazy. This is stupid. This is make me explode.
Make sure we find a way for you to go with me, maybe to my doctor, and talk about options.
The other thing that people have been emailing me about is that for some people, the medications, the birth control that you take can be very harmful for some people, that they're for whatever reason, the medications just don't agree with them. And so for Julia, it might not be a choice for her not to take birth control pills, but we don't know. It's just a point that might be present.
I had no idea Mom was going to do this. It was totally unexpected. But I'm also like a little silently angry. I feel like even if I say something, it's not going to make a difference, so I might as well just not say anything.
That's interesting. I'm silently angry, but anything I say will not make a difference, so I might as well not say anything. I imagine that is not true. I imagine that not saying anything essentially validates the mother's approach and gives her reason to think that she needs to say something because you're not saying anything. I've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. When I worked with families, one of the things that I would do with teenagers who were being treated like they were younger people, and they hated it. I had, a 16-year-old who isn't allowed to go to a party or something. And they're just like stomping around the house and slamming doors and running away at night and coming home the next day and telling the parents to F off and all this stuff. And I'd come in to the family and I'd talk to the kid. And I'd be like, so, what do you want? The kid, I want more freedom. I want to be treated like an adult. And I'd, do a full assessment. I'd go to the 16-year-old, I'd be like, so, and it'd just be, me and the 16-year-old without the parents around. I'd say something like, so let me tell you a secret. When you're treated like a child, do you feel like you're being treated like a child? Yes, I'm being treated like a child. Okay. And you act like a child, then it just keeps the ball rolling. But if you're treated like a child and you act like a 16-year-old, then they have to adjust and treat you like a 16-year-old. So let's strive for that. And let me ask you, what do you do to your parents that make you look like a child? And I'd hope that the kid would say, well, when I tell the parents to F off, when I run away from home, when I slam the doors, when I throw temper tantrums, that's me acting like a child. A 16-year-old would say, Mom, Dad, I get your worries, but let me reassure you, I'm not drinking, I'm not smoking pot. We're just watching a movie and we'll be okay. I'm a good kid. Then I'd go to the parents and I'd say, what do you want here? And the kid, the parent, I want this kid to grow up. I want this kid to be mature. This kid is irresponsible. I'd be like, okay. So what happens is when you treat a 16-year-old like a child, and they act like a child, the ball keeps rolling down the hill. We can eliminate the vicious cycle by breaking it from either end. And I've talked with your son about acting like a 16-year-old, but we got to talk about your side of it, meaning that you have to stop treating that child like a child. You have to start treating them like a 16-year-old. And what does that look like? And when you treat them like a 16-year-old, they tend to act like a 16-year-old, meaning that they have freedoms, but they act more mature, and they don't throw temper tantrums, and they don't slam doors, and they don't say F off, and they don't run away from home. So let's all do that. Now, what Brandon is saying is his policy is don't do anything. So he is acting like a compliant young boy, trying to be a good boy. So he is definitely playing his part in the family dance that keeps him in that position. And he's definitely trying to get Julia to match his mom. I speculated this last episode. I was like, oh no. I wonder if Brandon is actually dragging Julia into a system to face off with his mom because he doesn't feel like he can. And he wants someone to push back on his mom. Ugh.
Stop drinking.
And then out of nowhere, Julia starts telling him what to do. Stop drinking. Again, subtle communication. I am here to tell you what to do. And I believe you don't have the ability to make that choice. Now, maybe it was an innocent little comment. Maybe it was an invitation of, hey, be involved in this conversation. But let's just keep an eye on how she integrates into this system. There's a huge temptation for her to relate to him in the same way that the mom does. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.